This is the Flow Flex Scale Podcast, your field guide to the Solopreneur operating system with author and coach, Jennifer Britton. If you're a coach, consultant, creator, or service-based entrepreneur who wants to build a business that's sustainable, adaptable, and impactful, you are in exactly the right place. Every episode will have something you can put to work right away. So here's what to do right now. Follow us so you never miss an episode. And if you know another solopreneur who needs this, share it with them. That's how this community works. Daily steps plus consistent action equals momentum. That's Jennifer's mantra, and it starts right here, right now, with you. This is the Flow Flex Scale Podcast. Let's get started.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Today, I'm really excited to be welcoming Valerie Alawiye to our studio. And Valerie, I've had the pleasure of knowing you for a few years now, seeing you with many different hats. I know that you've stepped into solopreneurship. You're now in your second year of business. And I would love us today, in addition to talking about what you love about being a solopreneur, what you're doing, to also help us understand what it's like to make that transition from corporate into your own business. So welcome to you. I'm going to give you a chance to introduce yourself. Welcome to the Flow Flex Scale Field Guide. And yeah, what are you bringing to us today? Let's meet you first.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. As you mentioned, I have had the privilege of being a student of yours for many years and also you being my mentor coach. So truly appreciate you and excited to be here today. As you mentioned, I am a professional certified coach, which you helped me achieve in the last year. And I also am a retired senior executive with 30 years of experience. And most recently, I can put the title on my head of author, trainer, and speaker, and I'm also a chronic illness warrior. And in 2025, I founded Navigating Chronic Illness with Heart and Hope, and I specialize in supporting individuals with chronic illness and their caregivers and helping them design adaptable, sustainable, meaningful goals that support them no matter what phase they are in their journey. So thank you for having me.
Well, my pleasure. And what I love, you're a conversationalist like me. I know our listeners are going to enjoy today's episode. We're anticipating we'll probably make this into 2 parts. So if you have listened to part 2, welcome to part 1. And what we're going to look at is a variety of things in our conversation today. First of all, we're going to look a little bit at the Flow Flex Scale process. So for early listeners, this is one of our first episodes. You might have the Flow Flex Scale book, but for those that haven't heard about it, this is a business model that I've iterated over the last 2 decades. And really in seeing business owners, especially solopreneurs of all kinds, thrive, there really are 9 catalysts to growth. So before we meet Valerie, I want to put these on the table because this is going to probably create some of the roadmap of our conversation today. So under the flow bucket, we are going to probably look at things like your DNA and what makes you unique. I hope that you'll be able to share a little bit about what are you noticing that makes you unique as a business owner and as a business itself. We're going to talk about conversations and business foundations. That can include things like business modeling. So I know, Valerie, you might share with us a little bit about what you're noticing, what shifts you're going through in the business model arena. And I would even say for me as a 23-year-old business, the landscape of the world, including things like AI, invites us to constantly be re-examining what is our business model? What are we offering? How are we responding to the market needs right now? That's all under flow. Under our flex, of course, it's critical to keep adapting, just as I said. And so we might get into the landscape of productivity, our team, which are probably other solopreneurs or subcontractors, and a wide myriad of relationships we have. And then finally, we've got execution and getting things done. Finally, under scale, programs and products, marketing and visibility, and of course, business acumen. So with that in mind, let's sit back. I hope you've got your feet up because, the life of a solopreneur is very full. And I'd love to kick off by inviting you to share, like, what are you focusing on right now?
So, as we've talked about in other discussions, I focused a lot at first on creativity and on creating. And I was so excited to move from a very analytical role to creating. And so, creating a training program and writing my book, and it was really fun. And then I had to focus on selling that.
Oh,
And I realized I had spent so much time in my bubble on myself, focusing on creating and design, that I had not really focused on, as you talk about in the later stage, marketing, but building an ecosystem, which includes the people. And so with, my videos that I do and things like that, I am reaching people, but it's who am I reaching? And am I reaching the right people? And so what I'm focusing on now is building the community part, connecting with partners, defining my ideal client, which at first I kind of was like, I don't want to do with that because I want to help everybody. But it really is
yes.
an important step. And so focusing on defining and identifying my ideal client, and then where are they, and trying to reach them. So that's
Yeah.
where I'm.
And it's interesting that you take us to sort of one of the business fundamentals of like, who are you serving? What have you learned in this last year, Valerie, as you've been like, putting the word out? What have you noticed about how important it is to really connect deeply with your people?
Oh my gosh, that one of the things I've noticed is that when you connect with your people, they will speak for you. And I think you've talked about this as well, about the sponsorship, and when you're not in the room, that there's people that are speaking for you. And so reaching the right people, it just kind of multiplies itself. And I actually have a segment of my Navigating Chronic Illness with Heart and Hope video series called Heart and Hope Conversations. And I had somebody reach out to me, and he said, "Hey, I am in the medical field. I resonate so much with your Heart and Hope conversations. Can I be a guest?" And again,
Great.
such a beautiful thing that, like I said, I wasn't really aware of who I was reaching. And as I am digging into that more and looking at my metrics and things like that, I really am realizing who I'm connecting with and how to leverage that in a positive way, an authentic way, to grow the community.
Yeah, I love that. And again, you know yourself, you come across as so clear and confident. I know that's probably, it's been a long time coming. What would you say to new solopreneurs about owning yourself, owning your strengths, owning your talents?
We read that a lot and we hear that a lot. And when you're a solopreneur, it really becomes obvious. And so, just a really quick story, because I've thought about this. So, in my work, we had to respond quickly. And I'm also a checklist person. And so, I love to have my checklist at the end of the day. And what I realized, I was spending so much time on the admin piece and the things that weren't really priority, that weren't going to grow my business. And I went and looked back at some of my strengths, and I was like, okay, I should not be spending my time here. I really should spend my time, as you said, connecting with people and writing and speaking and those kinds of things, which are my strengths. And it has been a challenge to then say, okay, I'm going to have to ask someone to help me with those other things. The other thing that I've done is something that we all learn about in business classes and things like that, which is time blocking. And I sat down
Mhm.
with my schedule and I looked at blocks of time were my peak time for creativity, my peak time for more short tasks. And what surprised me is that I'm a night owl, but I do better in the morning doing some of my deeper work, my creative projects, things that take multiple hours, and then doing more of the shorter tasks in the afternoon. So I say all of that to say it's so important to really get to know yourself and to honor your strengths and be willing to seek support in those areas that are not your strengths. Letting
Well,
go.
you're giving such an important through line for readers. I want readers to actually, you're connecting deeply with three of the nine catalysts. Number one, DNA. What's our DNA? And maybe we jump into strengths in just a minute. But, if we're building a business that does not represent us, it's going to be a lot of work, right? It's a lot of work to build a business aligned with our strengths, let alone something that doesn't fit who we are and what we love to do. Two, I love that you spotlighted us into productivity. When are you at your best? And we might talk about that. For readers, you're going to see more about circadian and ultradian rhythms in the chapter on productivity. And again, in alignment of really being able to work at our best. Maybe you can talk to us a bit about how did you go about tracking your time? Because I think this is a really important activity done on maybe an annual, semi-annual basis to really see where am I spending my time. So talk us through a little bit about what you did, Valerie, to come up with these insights around productivity for yourself.
Sure. So I did what I always do. I did a vision board for the year. Well, I guess it really wasn't for the year, it was actually for my business. And but this time, instead of just putting up images that just were nice and pretty, I actually thought about what do I want to accomplish in my business? What is the purpose? And so, for example, I knew I wanted an ICF accredited training program. And so I actually printed out a fake letter and I put it on my vision board. And so I did that. I wanted my PCC. And so I put the PCC logo on there and I've put down, a check of how much money I want. But not just that, I put down pictures of people that I want to reach. And so that was really, it helped ground me that I'm not just doing these things, that there really is an end state that I'm hoping for. And some of it is longevity. And so I did that for my annual, and then I do quarterly check-ins. And one of the
Mm.
most fun things I did was participate in your second quarter business reset. And so I try to do things like that every quarter so that it reminds me, because I do get in my own way and it reminds me of what's really the bigger picture and what's really important. And then I do monthly, I set my goals for the month. And then I do weekly. So weekly, I do my time blocks. So on Friday is my admin day, and I do my planning for the week ahead. And sometimes I do good, and sometimes I don't. But it helps me set some sort of framework so I don't get caught in the thick of thin things, and I'm really working on what's priority. So I do multi-layer planning. I probably have way too many calendars and trackers and things like that, but it all helps me to stay on task. And then my last favorite thing is, if you all have never heard of the Wheel of Names, I use it for Wheel of Tasks. And when I have a lot of
Ooh.
little things to do, I put them all on the wheel and I let the wheel pick.
It's like a bonus. Is that like how you do you do one a day, or how do you use your wheel of tasks?
So I have a really long to-do list, and so I try to prioritize what's important. And so I move what's important to the wheel, and then whatever's left at the end of the day, it comes off. And so I try to restart every day.
That is so creative. Again, you bring such a wonderful creativity strength. So thank you. That is a golden tip. And you spoke to the business reset that I did in Q2. That now is available for listeners. It was a 5-day challenge. You can sign up at no cost. But speaking to the quarterly assessment reset, you also said, maybe I have too many planners, but can anyone have too many planners? Because
No.
one of the key things, and maybe some of you read Plan, Do, Track, right? It was not Plan, Do, it was Plan, Do, Track, so that we can always look at our metrics. So I'm curious, maybe we go a segue. I want to come back actually, though, to conversations and people. But while we're on this productivity and numbers piece, didn't ask you about this to think about, but maybe you could just share with us off the cuff, like, what are the metrics you're tracking right now? Just very high level. What do you take a look at as you're going through your quarterly, your monthly, even your daily? What are some of the metrics you're keeping an eye on?
So one of the things to grow my ecosystems, it's important to keep track of how many, and then of course the who. But I look at my subscribers, and so in the system that I use for my newsletter right now, I'm paid up to a certain number, and so I look at how close am I getting to that number. It also tracks for me what they're connecting, what their entry point is. So whether it's my
Mm.
newsletter, whether it's a training class, and things like that, so I can see what's important. I also do surveys. And so I send out surveys and, ask people, hey, how is this message resonating from you? What's missing in that conversation? And that was one of my action items from your second quarter business reset. And
Mm.
so I receive that type of information as well. And then with my training courses, I ask for feedback on, not only what worked with the course and what didn't. I also ask, hey, what's out there? What are you all seeing? what do people need, and that type of thing. And so it's not specific metrics in all cases. Some of it just really is reading the landscape and reading the room. And of course, I look at my finances. I have recently acquired some business software and I love it. I was tracking things in a spreadsheet and I put everything into the software and it just gives you graphs and tracks, charts and all of these amazing things just super quick. And that really helps me to say, okay, this line isn't working or
Yes.
isn't working the way I want. I need to adjust here. Or, hey, some of my passive work, like with my workbooks or with my book or whatever, I'm getting this type of revenue. Maybe I need to focus here. So just at the, touch of a button. So that's been really helpful.
I love that you take us there. And, this year at Potentials Realize, we're doing the Make It Visual retreats as part of the Experiential Roadshow. And I think as business owners, our ability to not just see the numbers, but see the trends and the through lines. And it sounds like whatever software you're using allows you to do that. Because, yeah, we're going to start seeing things. And every year is different in business, especially right now. So you piqued me on something that another thread I want to take us on is sort of doing the work. But let's go back a little bit to the heart of solopreneurism. Many of us start our business for many reasons. I know, like me, you had a large team that you managed for many, many years. Certainly when I started this business 23 years ago, I would say I was burnt out as a leader, right? I loved my team. I think there was a fear in me that maybe I would never work with such a great team again. And so I didn't even want to try to duplicate that in setting up Potentials Realized. And I've kept it that way, right? I love being able to bring in people as we need them, but keeping things lean and responsive, right? Again, we're a very agile business. And so that's been intentional. Now, it means though that building that set of relationships is so important. So I'm wondering if you want to share a little bit about what it's like to have moved from being a team leader to now being a solopreneur, and any tips or insights that you want to share about that experience.
So it was an interesting transition. So when I stopped working and retired last year, I still had some things at play. I was outside of work. And so I was on some teams. I had a lot of clients that I had acquired. And but it was all focused on business and those types of things. And so I kind of rode that wave last year, just as things kind of trailed off. And then I was picking up more of my creative work. And then somewhere around the holidays, it's like everything I realized that there was this empty space where there used to be a lot of busyness. And I am definitely someone who is a survivor of burnout. I had a pretty significant burnout and recovered from that, thankfully. But then I'm in this space where I'd always had a team. I'd always had people that I could, that could support me, that we would bounce ideas off of each other. And I'm in this quiet space. And I realized that I have to start, I don't want to say start over, but start anew,
Mhm.
start fresh. And that came down to doing the work of not only identifying my ideal client, but identifying in this space of solopreneur in this new world, who do I want to connect with? And I get to pick. And in 30 years in your career, you don't get to pick, which is fine. I mean, the network is built for you and the people you're supposed to connect with. But I get
Yes.
to define that now. And so it has been a lot of fun. I have been exploring, connecting with, like I'm in the ICF community. I'm in your community. Some of my other mentors have communities. So I've just been dipping into that and just seeing how I connect and seeing who I connect with. And so that's been a journey. I would say to anyone that just a tip is don't skip that step. Don't skip that step and go right to customer. I've got to sell and, I've got to get this out there because building your community, as I said before, they're going to speak for you and they're going to give you connections and information that you hadn't thought of. And it takes time. This is new. It takes time. People don't know me in this new space. Like a lot of people don't. And I was used to that. And so it's just rebuilding your identity. And one of the things I just read recently was we talk about brand and identity, but it's being that. And so
Yes.
being your business and not just this is what because I just think at so much in social media, everybody's a something, everybody I'm a guru at something, but actually being that and being authentic, and you're just going to build a really strong community from
Mm.
that, I think.
That's part one of Jennifer's conversation with Valerie. If today's episode struck a chord, whether it's rebuilding your identity after a career change, learning to time block around your own rhythms, or finally giving yourself permission to define who you want to serve, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast so part two lands right in your feed. In part two, Jennifer and Valerie pick the conversation back up, going deeper into community building, the realities of solopreneur burnout and recovery, and what it actually looks like to grow a business that reflects who you are, not just what you do. Daily steps plus consistent action equals momentum. That's Jennifer's mantra, and it starts right here, right now, with you. This has been the Flow Flex Scale podcast. If you know of another solopreneur who needs this episode, please share it with them. That's how this community grows. We'll see you next time.